Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Angie.
And together we are TwinFinity.
We're Twin Flames back with another 11 video. This one is actually kind of special because it's not only 11 day, but it's a Friday. Hey, and this is funny. I can see steam coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, so can I. Yeah, this is not a middle of the summer video.
No.
This is a, I'd call this middle of winter video. This is one of these days where, 4 days ago, in Fahrenheit terms, we were somewhere in the 50s as far as our daytime highs are concerned. Today, we didn't even crack the freezing mark, and now that it's after dark, we're significantly below the freezing mark. In Fahrenheit terms, we're about, plus 20 and dropping. So, we're standing outside, and it's a little bit chilly. Angie has got on her fuzzy earmuffs.
I just took them off because I can't hardly hear a thing with them on. So if my ears get cold, I'll put them back on and be deaf. But for now, I'll hear.
They're pink earmuffs. They're also heart-shaped earmuffs.
Yes, they are. Here, we'll demo my pretty hearts. Look at that.
Yeah, heart-shaped earmuffs. Yes, I got a flashlight. Yeah, there's another auxiliary light. And every so often, we might just be delighted.
Oh, boy.
Okay, it's as good as it gets. Hopefully my necky doesn't cover up my mouth too much. I had a tooth pulled out a week ago, and I just want to keep my face warm because it's just not any fun when I rock the boat yet. It needs another week to heal up properly. And why you call a mouth injury something that heals? Because the heels, they're way down there in the feet.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's going to be one of these videos.
You need a ba-dum to go with that one.
I think so. So anyway, getting back to our video. We had numerous titles for this.
Yeah, we kind of struggled with
we
the
did. We had a half a dozen
options.
titles. Some were a bit harsh. Some were just not pointed in the right direction. So we're going to call it the 11 fundamentals of the twin flame journey, even though there could be 100 fundamentals, depending upon the journey and who's talking about them and what they consider to be important.
Oh, yes.
But, we started out with 11 things we wish every twin flame knew, but most people know them. So I was thinking 11 things that we wish every twin flame knew and embraced. But that was a little harsh because that's saying that people just don't follow what they know. We bounced around with a whole bunch of titles, but I actually think it's, for me, 11 of my favorite fundamentals of the twin flame journey on the basis of these points just keep on coming up as being core reminders about some of the most important things of the twin flame journey that can come up over and over again. That was also too big to be a title, but I just said it.
And partly this video is to give people hope because we know how hard this journey can be and the struggles of it.
Way in the background behind us, I'll move out of the way. Way over there on the hillside is the word hope. You might not be able to see it from there.
Might not be able to.
But there's going to be some behind the scene pictures that'll show that. Angie went ahead and stamped out a beautiful hope in the snow.
And just on the topic quickly of behind the scenes, for those of you that connect with us on other formats other than Facebook, we normally only post our behind the scenes pictures on Facebook just because it gets far too complicated to post them everywhere. So yes, if you want to see our behind the scenes pictures, our Facebook page is where we put them. We'll put a link down below for you.
Angie made a note, even before the first point, that we have written down on our fancy pieces of paper. And it's that this was the very topic that was inspirational to the start of our year of 11 videos.
Yes.
We just started out with this thought and it branched out into tangents. So it's almost like we've been in a realm of tangents before finally finishing off right back with the topics that got us started into 11 videos.
And what's so funny is I even remember how this all happened. We were just lying in bed and Rob was saying, there's so many things I wish we could tell twin flames. I wish every twin flame knew this and that. And we just started out with all these points. And point number 1 was the very first point he started with. So it's kind of funny that we're, I'll say, ending our 11 videos because this is our 11th video. So we're kind of ending the series with this topic.
So that very first point that I came up with was, you can quit the journey, but the journey won't quit you.
Yes.
Yes, and that came from a lot of comments that people have where they say, I quit, I'm not doing this anymore, and they don't get 10 seconds down the road before something reminds them of the journey, or something they've learned along the way that they're trying to walk away from just ends up being part of their core.
Yep.
When you get started on these journeys, what you learn becomes part of who you are. And who you are is very hard to just turn that off and be something different. Because some of these things that you learn, whether they served you well or led you to a moment of distress, they still are who you are. And most of them were learned at a time where it was important, usually cherished,
Yes.
usually an aha moment, and you just can't walk away from what you've learned when just because you're frustrated with it.
Yeah.
It still is your truth.
And like Rob said, how many of us on this journey have said, I quit, forget it, I'm not doing this anymore? I'm sure we've all been there at some point or another. And why we say you can quit, but the journey won't quit you, and you've probably experienced this by now, is that you will get pulled back in some way, somehow. You think, okay, I'm so done with this journey, and then you see your twin's name everywhere, or you see this message, or you see the word don't give up, or you see a license plate. I mean, the universe has a way of pulling you back in. And it's not even just the universe. Quite honestly, it's your own soul, because your own soul's like, you chose this before you came here, and don't mean to be mean, Mr. Ego, but we're carrying on whether you like it or not. So your ego can go, forget it, I'm done, I'm moving on. And you might for a couple months, you might for a couple years. We were lucky enough to be able to supposedly quit for many years while we were apart. We didn't even know we were on this journey, but we were able to leave it per se, even though we still hadn't left it at all. We were still doing the work, just not understanding what was going on behind all the scenes. So yeah, like Rob said, you can try and quit, but it's part of your path.
I'm going to say I've paused my journey, but every day and almost every hour of every day, the pause button was turned back into play because something would come along
Yep.
that would remind me of where I was. So really, it was just a few stutters in a few months of where I just didn't intend on growing much, but still, it just continued to happen without me. And really, I didn't even really consider it to be a pause. It was just moments of inactivity. The learning did not stop.
Yes.
Now, we're going to come back to a lot of these points because, it's like flower petals where they reach out from the center of the flower and go out to the edge of a petal and come back to the core statements.
Rob's amazing
And
analogy.
It's just
I like that.
all these flower petals. So there's going to be some things we're going to come back and say over and over again, but that's just because we're coming back to the core, the center of the flower,
The fundamental.
the fundamentals.
You're brilliant. So point number 2.
Don't force healing, but don't fight it. This is one of these points where it's let it flow seems to be one of the big terms that comes with it.
Yes. And so why we say don't force it is because a lot of people want to force, whether it's, forcing healing, like, okay, I want to get as much done as I can because the more I heal, the quicker I can get to union. Sadly, it doesn't work that way. It's not like it's a test where I get 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 done, and then I'm done the test, or I'm done the pathway. It's constant. You're always growing, you're always healing, you're always learning. So there's no need to force things and say, okay, I gotta get this done and get this done. It's not like a checklist that you can just keep checking things off and then you're gonna get to the end, because there is no end. We're still healing, even though we're in union. We still are healing and growing even after we die. I say die in quotes because all we do is transition. But we're also saying don't fight the healing, because some people will be like, oh, I've done enough healing, I'm not doing anymore. No, I'm not facing that fear. No, I'm not facing that whatever. And if it's meant to be healed, you can do everything you want to fight it. But at some point, it's coming up. And what I've learned on my journey is the more you fight it, the worse you make it. If you just surrender into it and face it when it comes up, it's so much easier than fighting it. Because it's got to be dealt with. If you have chosen on a soul level to face something, there's no running from it. There's no spiritual bypassing it. There's no saying, oh yeah, I got it, and intellectualizing it. You just, like that saying says, you gotta feel it to heal it. And sometimes the feeling part is brutal. It takes you down literally to your knees, but it's part of the journey.
When it comes to not forcing healing, here I go with another analogy.
Of course.
It's like discovering you need to paint a wall, but you want to change the color. So you go out and you figure out, oh, that's just the perfect color, and you buy that can of paint. And now you think you're done the job. No, you still got to open the lid. You still got to put the brush in or get the roller out.
You're only starting the job.
Then you got to actually get it on the wall in a way that's even. Now, don't forget to let it dry, because it sometimes takes time for new things to settle in and be finished. Just because it exists doesn't mean that it's done drying. So then when it's done drying, then you're done painting the wall. Usually you still have some cleanup to do afterwards, but at least that far you can say you've done the healing. So
Good
yeah,
analogy.
so when it comes to forcing healing, just because you figured out the color doesn't mean the wall has changed.
Wow, I like that. So point number 3.
You can be in separation, but it doesn't have to change your connection.
So yeah, you can be in separation with your twin for a long time. Again, if you know our journey, we had 17 years of separation. You can both end up being in other relationships or even married to other people. You can both, or even just one of you, have children or a child with somebody else. You can even move far away from each other. And it might feel like, oh my God, we're no longer going to be together. Like, this is the end. But the point is, you're always connected. You are always going to be connected with each other internally, no matter what happens externally. So no matter what the outward looks like, you're always connected.
And whether you remember this connection in 3D or whether this connection continues on in 5D, or if it's a bit of both, you can try to forget someone, but generally you still end up feeling them. Or you can stop feeling them altogether, but the memories and knowledge that you have will come back and dwell on your mind.
Yeah.
The connection, whether it lives noticeably within you, or whether it just ends up being a 5D connection from all different points of view, it's still going to be there. If it exists, and if it came into existence well enough to be recognized, it's not just going to turn a switch and let go of you. That's the point that needs to be remembered, is the connection found you. You didn't find the connection. So when you recognize it, the connection isn't going to just abandon you. It's still going to be there.
And much going back to, like Rob said, the flower petals, and going back to the center, the fundamental is, of course, that you can't quit the journey, or you can supposedly quit the journey, but the journey will never quit you. So that kind of goes back to, you might end up somewhere else for a time, with someone else, with other people, children, move far away, or your twin might do that, but none of it matters. You are always connected. So the journey is never going to quit you. You could try disconnecting from your twin all you want, but the fact is you're going to be always connected with this person. And so the more we can learn to settle in with that and be at peace with that and honor that, rather than trying to fight it or cut the cord or deny the connection, the easier it gets to settle and be at peace with it. Even if you're not together physically, you can have peace in knowing that you're always going to be connected.
Agree. I've got nothing further to add to that.
All right.
Angie is so good at discussing connections. Oh, I got to go find the correct page.
There's lots of pages today.
Point 4. I like this one. This is a journey about unconditional love, but unconditional love starts with self-love.
Yes. So many people think that unconditional love means tolerating whatever and everything that your twin flame throws at you. So you think, oh, okay, well, they're treating me poorly. They're being mean to me. Oh, that's just a mirror. I need to look at that. And that's where we want to clarify that that is not always the correct way to look at things. So yes, this is about unconditional love, but unconditional love does not mean unconditionally tolerating everything that's thrown at you.
It's not about being an unconditional doormat.
Right. Unconditional love means first and foremost self-love, learning to unconditionally love the self, and putting up some people don't like this word, but I'm going to use it because I feel it's very fitting, some boundaries, and saying to your twin or other people, this isn't just about your twin, but of course we're talking about twin flames, is no, you cannot treat me that way. That is unacceptable. It might even be a family member. You might come from an abusive family and there might still be a lot of issues, a lot of poor treatment going on. So part of self-love is finally saying, enough. This is not acceptable. And removing yourself from those people, those situations, those actions of treatment that aren't really working for you anymore. So it's important to not think unconditional love means always tolerating everything that is thrown at you and allowing your twin flame or others to abuse you, treat you poorly, treat you in a narcissistic way with gaslighting and all of that stuff. Not at all part of what unconditional love is about.
Allowing love to work is about allowing love to be able to breathe and grow. If you have boundless love, love that is healthy and love that can go all different directions, that's very important to let it to do so. But if your love is being overrun by struggles, sometimes having boundaries in your love that allow it to then function within those boundaries but function properly is just as important as having the other aspect, which would be boundless
Right.
love.
Yes.
Just one moment.
Okay.
Can I have one of your spare Kleenexes?
We came prepared. We know what it's like to be out in the cold.
And somewhere or another in my 17 pockets, I've forgotten which pocket had my Kleenex.
So while you're Kleenexing, I'll go on to point number 5.
Yeah.
Which is a reminder, we've addressed this in other videos, but it's important enough to address more than once.
It's important enough to say often.
Yes.
This is one of the most confusing things that people deal with.
Yes. So a fundamental, again, on this journey is that you are a whole soul in and of yourself. You do not need your twin flame or anybody else to complete you. Part of this journey is reclaiming all of yourself, all of your wounded parts is why we do so much healing, so we can heal those parts and reclaim them and bring them back into balance within ourselves so we can feel whole all by ourselves. So many people think I'm not whole until I'm with my twin flame. They make me whole. I can't be a happy whole person without them. And unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, fortunately, that is not true. You do not need anybody to complete you because you can't rely on anybody, whether it's your twin flame or not, to always be there, to always stay. You have to find that home within yourself. Yes, your twin flame can feel like home, but that must start within.
When it comes to being a whole soul, half a soul, this was something that right out of the gate, I didn't have the same understanding that I have now. I don't want to say that I got it wrong because many people go down this road, and I think that sometimes a correction to something that's half right is not the same as having it wrong. So I don't want to say I had it wrong. But when you talk about having your own soul, and it's a whole soul, I completely believe that. from the basis that just like when in, let's say, human birthing terms, you end up with identical twins. They started out from the same cell and they split into two nearly identical cells. They're still individuals, still complete individuals.
Totally.
But they came from one exact source. So when they come back together, they now really are an imitation of the original single source. And that is how I now relate twin flames, as opposed to being each one being a half a soul put together.
Right.
It's two complete souls that came from one complete soul to begin with,
Yes.
but divided identically.
Yes.
Boy, that could be really subject to many other forms of interpretation, but simplicity is sometimes the greatest of the abundance.
Yes. So I was going to say, I hope that gives you hope. So to clarify, part of why we wanted to share this is to give people hope, because so many people feel so hopeless and thinking, oh my God, what if I never get to union? Then I'll never feel whole. I'll never know what it feels like to be a whole being. And you do not need to get to any sort of union, physical, emotional, whatever, 3D, 5D, to feel whole. You must feel that first, and then union can happen.
We've just completed point number 5. Now, point 6, 7, and 8, 9 are almost some form of rapid fire because they could just lead right into each other. These are where we're going to start from the center and zip out to the edge of the pedal and come back, and then zip out to the edge of another pedal and come back, and you might not barely think we've even left the core.
I love your flower analogy.
Yeah, this is a very flowery video. There's not a flower in the world right now that I think could grow in our temperatures right now. Point number 6. This is, boy, if you saw our notes, you'd understand why these points are so hard to read. When you feel hopeless, remember who you are and why you came here. This is about when you feel hopeless and want to give up on the journey.
Yes.
Yeah, now we're going to get into a bunch of giving up and why you maybe shouldn't points. It's your soul self that brought you to this journey. And it's your soul self that has what it takes to make it through the hard times.
Yes.
It's the 3D self that often wonders why you're doing this to begin with.
Yeah, it's the ego that's like, what am I doing? This is all crap. I hate this. I quit, blah, blah. So if you can honor that piece of you, because it is a piece of you. So many people want to kill the ego or ignore the ego, but it's a part of you. So you need to honor that piece, but then also step out of it a little bit and remind yourself, who am I really? The bigger part of me. Who is that? And why did I come here? What was my bigger purpose in being here? And that really can help find some hope on the journey and find some relief in the struggle, because there can be a lot of struggle.
What I often like to try to point out to people is that the journey is a spiritual journey. And one of the components of a spiritual journey, and not one of the mandatory components, but one of the components of the spiritual journey is the chance to get into union. It's one of many things that are part of the journey.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they look back at it, could name 30 things that have happened in their journey that have been big aha moments or even life-altering moments. Oh, yes. And then they came into union, which would just be like point number 31. There's so many things that happen along the way of the journey that union sometimes almost gets lost in the translation. This is going to come back, like I say, in one of the other points.
Yes.
Remember who you are and why you came here was the point. Your journey is part of what your soul. As I was attempting to say before the phone decided maybe that it got too cold, was the journey and what we're doing as part of the journey is all about what's been chosen by the soul to do.
Yes.
Very, very much.
Yes. So it helps to look at that and remember sometimes that bigger picture when you're really struggling.
Point number 7. You can try that one.
All right. Yes. When it seems like you're barely getting through one moment of purging, triggers, healing, growth, whatever you want to call them, and then you're hit with another one. So you barely have time to like take a breather between them. Sometimes you're like, what the hell? And I'm going to say that. You
Bleep!
You can say, what the hell is going
Bleep!
on? Thank you. And my experience, this might not be the case for everybody, but my experience with that means you're coming to the end of the major part of your healing. As we said earlier, you're always going to be healing. We're still healing. But you get to a point where you feel much more balanced and you don't have the extreme highs and lows. It now kind of feels more like a nice steady straight instead of an up and down and up and down. So if you're in that place where it's just healing and purging and growing and more pain and triggers and it's just like almost nonstop, have hope in knowing that it's actually a good sign. I can remember when I went through that, I was so mad at my soul because I did remember the point before that my soul had chosen this, but I didn't yet know at that point why. And I was just like, are you kidding me, soul? Like, do we need to try and face everything in one lifetime and all at once? Like, could you not give me a break? But once it was done, Rob and I came into union. And it was just like, oh my God, now I get it. And things really then started to level out. And they have ever since. Yes, we still have our challenges. We still have good days and bad days. I just had a really bad day yesterday. In fact, I had a complete meltdown. But those are so rare now. They don't happen like they used to nearly daily. Now they happen, I don't know, once every couple of months, even if that. So,
You know, purging and triggers. I once had a conversation at a workshop about purging and triggers with someone, and I asked them a question. Would you rather have purging and triggers, or would you rather be stuck?
yeah, if you're purging and triggering, you know you're not stuck.
So oftentimes people get stuck when they're in the middle of a process. And then as it's finally going to work its way through to an end, that's just like when an ice dam on a river breaks. Everything starts to crumble, and then everything, the water and the ice all rush through, and it becomes a lot closer to a completion. So as you're going through purging and triggers, especially after being stuck, think of it as finally getting towards the end of a specific process.
Yeah.
And when you get to the end of that growth and healing, well, you can probably take a little bit of a break, but then your soul has learned what it's needed to learn. Sorry, it's probably going to go out and find something else.
Hopefully it won't be as hard, though.
So when you're looking at that from the point of view of going from phase of growth and healing to phase of growth and healing, that leads to point number 8, which is you can't fail at this journey.
Yes.
When you're getting somewhere, you're getting somewhere. And it's because your soul has taken you down the road of going on a journey to begin with. Because you're even on this planet, you're part of on a journey that your soul has likely chosen, or at least chosen some of the many paths that it can have to go down as it runs into various obstacles, and as you on a 3D level also run into obstacles. It can deflect you on various forms and styles of path. But that doesn't mean that there's any form of failure. It's all about the learning. You're still learning, and it might not be 3D learning. It might be 5D learning. It might be stuff that your soul needs to learn, and unfortunately your 3D self just has to learn with the consequences and live with the consequences.
And be dragged along.
Be dragged along. But yes, you can't fail at the journey.
And then also the reason you can't fail is because it's not a journey of the human side or the human ego. It's a journey, like Rob said, of the soul. And the soul has the map. It is inside of you. So that's why we often say so many times, go within, because that's where the answers are. That's where the guidance is. That's where the map is. So you might be thinking, okay, well, if I just do this, if I just do that, my mind knows what to do and how to heal and what to face and when to talk to my twin flame and when to ignore them and blah, blah, blah. But if you just go inside, your soul will be like, nope, go here, go do this, feel this, face this. And the map, it will lead you right along the path, even if it is a long, winding path like ours was. Hopefully yours isn't as long and winding, but you never know.
Point number 9 is something we've already run right over. We might be able to almost skip it, but we won't because we still need 11
It's
points.
a point.
It's a point. Your soul chose this journey for growth and service. Your
No.
soul is not how about this? It's not what you'd call selfish. Yes, it needs to grow. Yes, it's got its points that it's got to try to figure out. But as part of being all part of spirit, your soul also wants to share. So there is a lot of service that comes out of this growth.
Yes.
And a lot of the service can be re-expressed in 3D when you're talking, let's say, with other people. Some of the things you learn, although you may bend it into someone else's 3D reality, it's still what other people would call wisdom. And when you are taking what you've learned and you're imparting wisdom to others, usually at the time of their struggles or grief, you might not think of it as being in service, but you really are helping them. So, yes, your soul chose this journey for its own growth, but yes, it's not expecting you to take everything that you've learned and keep it all inside. There's going to be times when you're going to spread it around, and that is called the service end of it.
And that also goes with the added point of that this journey isn't just about romance. So many people want to get to union so they can have this great love and just live happily ever after. And while that's nice, it's not the point of this journey. We are all here to be in service to humanity, in service to the planet, in whatever shape or form that appears to be. You know, for us, it's sharing videos with you people and you know, working with people like that. But your service might be completely different. And your service also doesn't have to be when you're in union. It can be before union. But it's just to remember that the bigger perspective of this is about service rather than just a love romance and a love story and all of that. Again, that's nice and sure it can be part of the journey, but it's not the reason for the journey.
Point number 10. Union is possible, and it does happen. That's another one that keeps on surfacing and surfacing. More and more we see people that are getting into union. Now we won't talk about the percentages of union that happen in comparison to the percentages that are attempting to happen, but union is possible and tends to be more likely to happen now than it ever has been. People are learning quicker and faster and deeper and better, and they are getting through their growth patterns and their sticking points I would hate to use the term record time because that sets up expectations.
Yes.
Expectations, one of those very dangerous words.
And time really doesn't exist in 5D anyway. There is no record time. There just is.
But, you know, when union hasn't come to be a reality and it doesn't look like it's on the horizon, the words right here on the piece of paper are hang in there, even when you feel like it's never going to happen.
Hence why we have the word hope back there again.
Hence why our hope is right behind us.
That's right.
We had to have our hope in front of us for a long time. And now it's still there right behind us.
Yes. So even though we've talked about in some of the other points that yes, union is not the goal of this journey, I know it's kind of like, and some people don't like this term, some people relate to it and understand it, but it's kind of like that carrot of, okay, this is like the dangling carrot to keep me going. This is why I'm doing the work and doing the growth is so that I can get to union. And if that's what it takes for you to face whatever you need to face and heal what you need to heal and grow what you need to grow, fine, do that. You know, just whatever you need to hang on to some hope. And having union as an end goal, again, that's not at all the end goal, but if that's what you need to sort of put in your mind sometimes to get you there, that's okay. So it's just to remember that, yeah, union is possible. Like there's us and there's many other people who are either on YouTube doing videos or just living life and, you know, not in the public eye at all that are in union. And they're out there as well, giving people hope that this journey is worth it in the end, and that there is an end again, per se. I don't like using the end word because it's not an end. In fact, union feels like it's more just the beginning in a lot of ways.
It just opens so many doors that there just is no end.
Yes. Yes.
When you, there's another point here on the piece of paper, but I want to go back. I've just got another analogy.
Of course you do.
Angie used the
king of
word
analogies.
used the word carrot, and I'm thinking, I seldom put the carrot, the what do you call that? The reward on the union for all the effort. One carrot does not make a salad. It's all the different points that you learn along the way in a journey. They are all carrots. And when you bundle them all up and put a nice elastic band on it with its little green sprig sticking out the top of this batch of carrots, that's what the journey is all about.
So brilliant.
There's any one of those carrots could be union. Some of those carrots could be lifelong friendships that you make along the way within the journey.
Feeling whole, all of yourself.
Feeling whole, like a whole bundle of carrots. Oh man.
There we go.
I am just way out.
Oh boy.
I'm way out of whack tonight. I mean, I could be way in whack is the way to put it, because I'm really having a very good time with all these analogies. Many carrots, many portions of the journey. And death of a twin does not mean no union.
Yes.
There's many people who have talked about how their twin has died, but they still feel the connection.
Yes. Yeah, and why we wanted to address that is because recently we have heard of quite a few people's twins passing before they got to what they thought was, the ultimate goal of union. And the fact is their twin is still connecting with them. In fact, they have a deeper, stronger connection with their twin now that their twin is on the other side than they did while they were both alive. Again, death is nothing but a transition. And I know it sounds harsh sometimes, it sounds cold, but really when you can understand and learn to connect with the other side, you'll be amazed. Like, just as an example, my brother passed a few years ago, and I actually feel closer to him now than I did in the 40 some years he was alive. So it's amazing how you can realize the connection is still there, but still there even stronger when somebody passes.
Point number 11.
Yes, and actually before we go to point number 11, I do want to say, for those that have had their twin pass away, we're certainly not trying to make light of that. I know it's still got to be hard. Like, we got to honor the human side of us too, and we're going to grieve and feel sad and feel like there's a loss. But it's, again, just to give hope that it's not the end. It doesn't mean union can't happen. Just union looks different than what it would look like if they were alive. But you can still definitely have a magical connection.
I would take stories or comments on all this because this is a topic that hasn't been, I think, thoroughly explored. Some people have, but some people haven't explored the thought of still being a connection when someone has passed on from 3D. I'd like to hear more comments on that.
Yeah, fascinating.
Point number 11 now?
Yes.
This is almost linking right back to the very first 11 video. That's part of the words on the piece of paper, and I totally agree with it. The journey is worth it.
Yes. So many people struggle to the point that they're like, is this even worth it? Like, really, if I even do get to union with my twin, is this all this pain, all this hurt, all this struggle going to even be worth it? Like, really? And if you know my journey, if you don't, we'll post the link above the video here. But my journey was hell. Go ahead, bleep me again.
Her journey was heck.
I struggled greatly through the years when Rob and I were still in communication, through the years when we weren't. I have been through enormous amounts of challenges, pain, suicidal ideation, you name it. I've been there, and it is all worth it. There is nothing that I have been through that I would change if I could go back, because it's all brought me here, and this is the best my life has ever been. Not just because I'm in union, but because I'm in union with self, that's what makes it so good. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it genuinely is my truth. Because when you have union with self, when you feel whole within yourself, there is just nothing better than that. Because if you don't feel whole within yourself and you're with your twin flame, you're still not going to feel like, you're still going to feel like there's something missing, there's something not right, there's something that you want or yearn for. So having all of those experiences and working through all of the pain, working through all the dark nights of the soul, has all been worth it to get to this place. So if that, just sharing that helps give somebody hope, that is my goal.
For me, long before the journey dangled the carrot of union in front of me, I'm not letting go of that. That's way too fun. I had already collected a basket full of carrots already from the journey that I had. I was actually very, very happy with what I was learning, even though I had no known goal of where it was really going to take me. I was just collecting carrots and keeping them. It was just part of just what was going on. I was just getting more and more abundance of knowledge and peace, really. I was on a very peaceful journey of just gathering information, and I could see the growth inside of me, and I didn't even need to know where it was taking me.
Yes.
So yes, my journey was completely worth it. My journey could have stopped dead in its tracks right before coming into union, without knowing that union was possible, and I would have still believed that I would have had a lifetime full of learning, and the journey was completely worth it.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that means I hadn't run through a dark night of the soul where some people go, why is all this worth it? Why is it even worthwhile trying it? Because it's just so hard. I might have missed those steps. I might be one of the lucky ones.
That is lucky.
Okay, yes, it can be. But
Although, back to what I was saying, while it's lucky in one sense, it's not, because all of those were great experiences now that I look back on them. They weren't while I was in them.
So, yeah, maybe I've missed out on some experiences, but if we all experienced the same thing, that would mean we probably all knew how to begin with, and therefore we wouldn't need to experience it at all. So some people need it because it hasn't been part of their journey. I have probably had another lifetime or 10 where I have experienced plenty of pain. Maybe I just chose to not have it in that sense this lifetime. And in brackets, I'll have to throw in yet, because I don't know what the rest of life has to bring me.
That's true.
So far, and I have to say, the journey has been very worth it.
Yes. So that is our 11 points. This is our last
official 11
that's
video.
the right word.
It's been a whole year of putting together 11 videos.
Yes.
And it's now, it's the start of winter for some. It's the start working towards the end of the first third of winter for us. If we continue on, I'm going to use the word if, but there's going to be some form of continuance from here. It's just been way too fun to just say, it's all done now, we quit, as far as this style of videos is concerned. If we continue on, especially for the rest of the winter, chances are pretty good it's going to be downstairs in front of our fireplace.
Yes. So perfect timing. We just got our low battery warning, so good, because we're almost done.
So before we get our no battery warning, which is called a black screen.
Don't say goodbye yet, because I'm not done.
She's not done.
I'm not done. Don't end me yet. I was going to say, we did not know when we started these 11 videos that it was going to be a whole year of COVID. But apparently Spirit did, because we were guided right from the very beginning of doing this series to do every single video outside. Hence why it's middle of December right now almost, and we are outside blowing fog because it's cold air. We each have like 3 layers on of clothes. It's taken quite a bit of effort to even prepare for this video by getting dressed.
We got some behind the scenes pictures there too.
Yes. So if we continue this series, it will not be to this level. We will not do every video outside. We probably won't even do a word like we've been. If you've been very astute and noticed at the end of each one of these 11 videos, there is a word that we have somehow made build with nature involved. This word we've shown you in the video already is hope, built in the snow. We might not do that in all of our videos either, but we will still have fun in our own ways. But now we'd also like to open up the table to you guys. If you want us to continue this series, let us know. And if you have specific topics you would like us to address, let us know some of those. We already have some more that we can talk about, but if you have specific things you want us to talk about, we will happily entertain those. So on that note,
Okay.
Rob,
You see, this whole last bit, I had no idea she was going to be saying. She had this all planned out. Wasn't on the format.
No, it wasn't.
That's why we wing it.
That's why we wing it. So, goodbye for official 11 videos from outdoors in Calgary, Alberta,
Yes.
Canada.
And all the rest of the unofficial ones that crop up in the future, they're still official. They're just not this year's.
Right.
All right.
Thank you for joining us for our 11th 11 video, and we will catch you again for another time.
Bye.
Bye.